My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 41 years old. I live in New York City, and I've been working in corporate hiring for over a decade. I've interviewed thousands of candidates, CEOs, interns, even ex-cons trying to turn their lives around. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the moment she walked through that door. I was mid-sentence, reviewing a candidate's portfolio with two other panelists, when the receptionist knocked lightly and said, "Your 3 o'clock is here." I glanced up with a polite smile. Then I froze. It was her. Melissa Langston. The same woman who vanished from my life without a trace. The woman who blocked my number, my emails, my entire existence 2 years ago. She stood there like she didn't recognize me, or maybe she hoped I wouldn't recognize her. But I did. How could I not? That same posture. That same scent of citrus and lavender. That same slight hesitation when she's about to sit down, like the chair might judge her. I hadn't seen or heard from her since the morning I found that note. 7 words. "Don't contact me. Please respect my peace." No explanation. No closure. Just silence. And now here she was, walking into my boardroom, applying for a job I controlled, under a company I helped rebuild from the ground up. Funny how life works, huh? My two co-panelists greeted her warmly. They didn't know the history. They couldn't feel the storm brewing under my skin. I stayed calm. Professional. Cold, if I'm being honest. Because at that moment, I wasn't her ex. I was her judge. And she had no idea that the man she left behind, broken, confused, and blocked, was now sitting across from her, holding her career in the palm of his hand. Voice drops into emotional whisper. She thought she erased me. She thought I'd never matter again. But today, she couldn't ignore me if she tried. She blocked me everywhere. I showed up on her job interview panel. Scene transitions to soft visuals. City lights, cozy apartment, morning coffee being poured. Background score mellow and nostalgic. Back then, life felt simple. It was the spring of 2020 when I first met Melissa. She had just moved to Brooklyn, said she wanted a fresh start. She was in her early 30s, had a sharp eye for design, and carried this soft energy that made you want to lean in when she talked. We met at a networking brunch. Creatives, consultants, marketers, all thrown together in a rooftop loft with overpriced espresso shots. She stood by the railing, sipping a drink she didn't like, pretending to enjoy a conversation she wasn't really in. I walked over and said, "You look like someone who doesn't belong here, but also doesn't care." She laughed, and that's how it began. Melissa was magnetic. Not the kind of woman who entered a room and made heads turn, but the kind who made people stay longer once she started speaking. We talked about everything, late nights over takeout, watching documentaries we barely finished, her dreams of launching her own fashion line. She called it urban resilience in fabric form. I didn't fully get it, but I supported it. At that time, I was consulting for mid-sized firms, helping them restructure post-COVID. I wasn't making crazy money, but I was stable, grounded. She loved that about me. She used to say, "You're the calm I didn't know I needed." And I thought she was my missing color, the creative energy that softened my structure. We balanced each other. Or so I believed. We moved in together after 8 months. Too soon, maybe, but when you're in it, when everything feels warm and right, logic doesn't stand a chance. We had our routines. Saturday brunch at the corner cafe. Monthly budget meetings, her idea, surprisingly. Night walks where she'd point out random strangers and imagine their life stories. She made me laugh. She made me feel seen. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building something with someone. But looking back now, the cracks were already there. Subtle at first. She never talked about her family. She hated when I asked questions about money. And every now and then, I'd catch her smiling at texts she never explained, but I ignored it. Told myself I was being paranoid. She used to say, "Not everything needs to be overanalyzed, Daniel. Some things are just vibes." So I let the vibes lead. I trusted. I gave her access, not just to my life, but to my work. She wanted to learn the business side of things. So I walked her through pitch decks, brand strategy models, competitive landscapes. She'd sit beside me, taking notes, asking sharp questions. She was brilliant at presenting. I just helped her shape it into something structured. I never asked for credit. She was building her dream, and I felt proud to be a small part of it. She even used to joke, "When my brand blows up, you're getting lifetime royalties." But royalty never came. Only silence. And now that I think about it, maybe I wasn't helping her build something with me. Maybe I was just her launchpad. Visual flash. Her sketching fashion designs, then slowly pulling away emotionally. There were moments, small ones, that stuck with me. Like the night she cried in the shower, said it was because her past was catching up. Or the time she asked, "If I left, would you survive?" I laughed it off. But maybe she wasn't joking. Maybe she was testing how easy it would be to disappear. Quiet pause. Background music shifts slightly darker. You see, Melissa didn't explode out of my life. She faded, gently, intentionally. She started working later, turning her phone face down, saying she needed space to think. And I gave it to her. Because when you love someone, you don't cling. You trust, even when it hurts. The unraveling, silent suspicion and rising tension. She used to call me her peace. Then one day, she started treating me like noise. Slow, building tension, quiet observations, internal conflict growing. Scene opens with subtle tension, empty wine glasses, unread messages, a ticking wall clock. The visuals grow colder. Distance replaces warmth. At first, I blamed the stress. Her brand was taking off. Mine was shifting. We were both juggling long hours, tight deadlines, and that New York pressure that squeezes you even when you're standing still. But something had changed. We used to talk before bed. Now, she slept facing the wall. We used to plan Friday nights. Now she forgot to tell me she already had plans. Little things. Subtle. But real. She started guarding her phone, like it was a vault. Always face down. Always on silent. Always tucked under a cushion or flipped into her laptop bag the second she entered the room. One night, while we were watching TV, or pretending to, her phone buzzed. Just once. A single notification lit up the screen for barely a second. But I saw a message from a contact saved as J. It read, "Let's keep this between us. He doesn't need to know." She grabbed the phone fast. Didn't say a word. Didn't even flinch. Just slid it into her hoodie pocket and changed the subject. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not yet. Because I wasn't sure what I saw. Or maybe I wasn't ready to believe it. I told myself, maybe it's about work. Maybe it's a surprise. Maybe I'm just tired. But denial has a shelf life. And mine was about to expire. Scene shifts. Daniel sitting alone, glancing at his phone. Melissa walks by, avoids eye contact. Over the next few weeks, She grew colder, shorter. Her affection felt forced, if it showed up at all. She stopped asking about my day. Stopped listening when I talked about clients or milestones. Stopped noticing when I didn't eat. But I noticed everything. The way she flinched when I asked where she'd been. The fake yawn at 8:30 p.m. followed by, "I'm gonna turn in early." The new makeup she wore, even on nights she said she was just grabbing coffee with a friend. She didn't lie outright. She just left out the truth. And I started collecting those silences like puzzle pieces. Cut to Daniel opening his laptop. Slow, deliberate typing. Suspense builds. One evening, while she was in the shower, I opened her work tablet, the one I helped her buy. She never logged out of her email. And there it was. A calendar invite for a dinner. Said by Jason H. Subject line: "One more night before he finds out." My hand shook. Not with rage. Not with heartbreak. Just with clarity. Narration slows. It's strange. The moment your heart breaks for the last time, it doesn't explode. It stops. Like a room after a power outage. Quiet. Still. Empty. I closed the tablet. Walked to the window. And stood there for a long time. She came out of the shower, kissed me on the cheek and said, "I love you. Good night." And I whispered back, "Good night." Because I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. Not anymore. Scene fades to black as Daniel's voice sharpens just slightly. I stayed silent. But I started watching. Her routines. Her language. Her timelines. Every little detail she didn't think I was noticing. I wrote down. Because if she was planning to disappear, I needed to be ready when she did. Then one night, at exactly 2:07 a.m., her phone lit up again. Cold clarity, emotional stillness, the turning point. Scene, late night. Clock ticks. Room dim. Daniel lies awake, staring at the ceiling. Melissa, sleeping beside him, turned away. Phone light flickers. It was a Tuesday night. Cold. Quiet. The kind of night where every sound feels louder than it should. 2:07 a.m. Her phone, on the nightstand, lit up. Just once. I didn't move at first. I just watched the glow fade slowly, the way truth sometimes does, right in front of you. Then I leaned over, quiet, careful. Camera close-up. Daniel picks up the phone, screen still lit. A single preview message. "I missed last weekend. You're all I think about. Jay." I stared at it for a long time. Didn't scroll. Didn't swipe. Didn't snoop. Because I didn't need to. The truth was right there, in that single sentence. She wasn't confused. She wasn't emotionally distant. She was with someone else, mentally, physically, emotionally, and lying to my face every day. I placed the phone back exactly where it was. Got out of bed. Walked to the kitchen. Sat in the dark and just breathed. Soft piano in background, low and slow. I thought I'd feel rage. Or heartbreak. Or the kind of pain that drives people to do something stupid. But I didn't. I felt calm. Like everything finally made sense. All the half smiles. The ghost touches. The missing hours. The silence. It wasn't just me losing her. She had been removing me piece by piece, until there was nothing left to hold. And that night, I stopped trying to hold on. Flashback visuals. Melissa sleeping. Daniel quietly gathering a notebook, plugging in a hard drive. I didn't say a word the next morning. Didn't bring it up. Didn't throw accusations across the breakfast table. Instead, I started planning. Quietly. Precisely. Because when someone you love turns into someone who can lie to your face and sleep beside you like nothing happened, you don't scream. You strategize. Cliffhanger beat. Fades to Daniel looking in the mirror. I didn't cry that night. I started preparing. Cold, methodical, emotionally restrained but powerful. Scene opens. Early morning. Daniel sits alone with a coffee, pen in hand, writing in a notebook labeled July. Calm jazz plays faintly in the background. They say heartbreak changes you. But betrayal? That rewires your entire system. The next morning, while she showered, I started making a list. Not of her lies. Not of the things she took from me. But of the things I still controlled. And that list was longer than I thought. Flashbacks, Daniel at his desk, typing, scanning documents, researching, all quiet, slow, deliberate. I went to work like nothing was wrong. Took calls. Smiled on Zoom. Hit my targets. But at home, I became someone else. I started backing up my old emails, especially the ones where I helped her build pitch decks, draft proposals, create that entire financial projection model she used to wow investors. I still had the originals. She had the versions she edited. I kept screenshots of all the timestamps. She had the brand. But I had the blueprint. And the receipts. Scene, Daniel talking calmly with a friend, a quiet, well-dressed attorney in a private office. I reached out to an old law school friend, now a partner at a mid-sized corporate litigation firm. Didn't tell him everything. Just enough to start documenting IP use, timeline overlaps, and misrepresented ownership. We weren't suing yet. We were just getting ready, in case we needed to. Scene shifts. Daniel watching Melissa through a window. She's laughing on a phone call, unaware he's observing. Meanwhile, Melissa carried on like nothing was happening. She started staying out later. Became extra, affectionate, at random moments, overcompensating. I played along. Not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted her to feel safe, just long enough for me to get everything I needed. And she gave it to me. Access, documents, names, passwords she forgot she saved to the shared tablet, email drafts never deleted, calendars full of private meetings. She didn't cover her tracks because she thought I was too passive, too kind, too safe to ever push back. She underestimated me. Scene, Daniel in a new suit, speaking at a leadership seminar. Outside of her world, mine was evolving. I started getting noticed at work. Promoted to senior talent director. Bigger desk. Bigger clients. And with that came more control, especially over hiring. Funny how the same job she once told me was boring turned out to be the very thing that gave me power later. Cut to Daniel updating LinkedIn. New title. Director of Talent Acquisition, NYC Region, Stratwell Group. That title would come back to haunt her. Scene, her brand collapses. Newspaper clipping visuals. A notification tone. By early 2023, her startup began to crumble. Bad reviews. Late deliveries. 2 co-founders walked. Investors pulled out. A quiet storm. I didn't cheer. I didn't post about it. I didn't send a single text. But I watched. And then, her name popped up. Inbox ping. Daniel clicks open an application file. Resume appears. Name, Melissa Langston. She applied for a position at our firm. Didn't know I worked there. Didn't check the hiring panel. Her resume was decent. Polished. rebranded. But to me, it was a time capsule. Every bullet point, every independent achievement, something I had helped build. My hand hovered over the reject button. But then I paused. Why reject when you can interview? Scene: Daniel staring out his office window. Background music tightens. A slow smile forms. I scheduled her. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Panel interview. 3 people on the board. I'd be seated in the center chair. Cut to black. Faint sound of a knock on a door. She thought I'd vanished from her life. But now, I was the gatekeeper to her next chapter. Calm power, silent domination, zero emotional leakage. Scene opens. Corporate conference room. Wide shot. 3 interviewers seated. Daniel in center. Door opens. Melissa enters. Tuesday, 2:58 p.m. She walked in like she owned the place. Fresh blowout. Designer blazer. That confident smile she used to flash at clients when bluffing through a pitch. But the moment her eyes met mine, that smile cracked. Just a little. Not enough for the others to notice. But I saw it. That split-second panic. That silent "what the hell is he doing here?" scream behind her eyes. Melissa sits. Daniel greets her professionally. "Melissa Langston," I said, glancing down at the file like I didn't already know every line. "Thank you for coming." She stammered a polite greeting, voice lower than usual. She kept looking at the other panelists, hoping they would carry the conversation. But I didn't let them. I led the interview. Montage of interview questions, Daniel's voice calm, steady, controlled. "So walk us through your experience with multi-level team oversight. Specifically, post-launch crisis management." Her voice wobbled. She tried her best to sell herself. Tossed in buzzwords, high-level phrases, the kind we hear when people are bluffing through gaps. I didn't blink. I just asked another question. Then another. And another. Each one aimed with precision, referencing things I knew she hadn't done, but had said she had. She started sweating, fidgeting, repeating herself. By the 15-minute mark, she knew. This wasn't a regular interview. This was a quiet reckoning. Scene: Melissa requesting to speak to Daniel after the interview. Daniel nods, steps out into hallway. Once the interview ended, she waited behind as the others left. She asked if she could speak to me privately. We stepped into the hallway, a sterile corridor lined with framed corporate achievements. "I didn't know you work here," she said, trying to laugh. I didn't laugh. She paused. Tried again. "Dan, look, I know things ended badly." I cut her off. Calmly. No heat. "This is a professional environment, Melissa. You came for a job. You'll be evaluated like any other candidate." Her mouth opened, but no words came. I let the silence hang between us. Let it remind her of the one she left me in. Then I walked away. Scene: email draft being typed. Daniel's voice narrates softly. The next morning, we sent the rejection email. Straightforward. Professional. "We appreciate your interest. Unfortunately, you were not selected to proceed further. We wish you the best." But I attached something extra per policy. A one-line feedback note. "Lack of demonstrated leadership under pressure. Recommend development in accountability and clarity of execution." No emotion. No insult. Just the truth. Cold. Precise. Final. Scene: Melissa reading the email alone. Her expression falls. She closes the laptop slowly. That was the last I ever heard from her. No calls. No second tries. Just silence, the very silence she once gave me, returned with interest. Scene: Daniel back at his desk. Sunlight pours in. Calm music builds. And the thing is, I didn't need her to suffer. I didn't need to destroy her. I didn't even need an apology. I just needed her to see that the man she blocked, ghosted, underestimated, had rebuilt himself, and was now in the position she thought she'd never need. She walked away from me like I was a stepping stone. She didn't realize I'd become the gate she'd have to walk through next. Reflective, calm, mature, closure and growth. Scene opens. A quiet morning. Daniel waters a plant by his window. Coffee brewing. Jez playing softly. Peace. It's been a year since that interview. A year since she walked into that room thinking it was just another meeting, and walked out realizing some doors don't open twice. I never heard from her again. And honestly, I never needed to. Because closure doesn't always come from someone else. Sometimes, it comes from becoming someone they never thought you could be. Scene: Daniel walking through a city park. Peaceful. Balanced. Happy. Voice calm. Life today? Simple. Steady. Mine. I'm in a healthier relationship now. One built on honesty, not dependency. We laugh without keeping score. We argue without manipulation. We grow, side by side. My career's thriving. I head multiple regional hiring operations now. And I mentor people who once felt invisible, like I did back then. Scene: Daniel speaking at a seminar. Slide says, Pain into power. Recognizing red flags without losing yourself. I even started speaking at small leadership events. Not just about business, but about boundaries. Because if there's one thing Melissa taught me, it's that not every flame is warm. Some are fire drills dressed as passion. Soft visuals. The apartment is brighter now. No shadows. Just quiet peace. I look back sometimes. Not out of anger. Not with regret. But with a strange kind of gratitude. Because the heartbreak that tried to bury me ended up planting the roots of who I am now. Scene: Daniel looking into the camera. Calm smile. Voice soft but steady. She took a lot when she left. Time. Trust. Parts of me I'll never fully get back. But she didn't take my soul. She didn't take my purpose. And she didn't break the man I was always meant to become. Final line. Powerful emotional takeaway. She blocked me everywhere. But in doing so, she cleared the path ahead of me. And I walked it, not to prove her wrong, but to finally stand in a life that was right for me. Sometimes the best revenge is no longer needing one. Studio microphone. If this story hit close to home, you're not alone. Subscribe for more real stories of quiet power, growth, and healing.